When Chinelo passed away, it felt like the final tipper to Femi's childhood had been cut. The grief was overwhelming. But as the days wore on, Ojiogu knew she had to make a decision about Femi's future. She wanted the best for her son, and as much as it pained her to admit it, she knew Adeyemi could provide opportunity she couldn't. The news of Chinelo's death quickly reached Adeyemi's family. Madam Adoni, ever the opportunist, saw this as the perfect chance to bring Femi into the fold. If not for any maternal instincts, then at least to secure the family's lineage. Adeyemi, still racked with guilt and unresolved feelings, agreed. He wanted to make things right, to finally be a father to the son he had lost all those years ago. Ojiogu and Adeyemi's meeting was anything but warm. When Adeyemi arrived in Enugu, Ojiogu greeted him with a cold formality, her eyes devoid of the love that once burned so brightly for him. "Hello, Adeyemi," she said, her tone polite but distant. "It's been a long time." Ojiogu, don't worry. There's nothing to explain, Adeyemi," Ojiogu said when Adeyemi began to talk. "What is done is done. Femi's future is all that matters now. Can we please concentrate on that?" Adeyemi's heart sank, but he nodded, understanding that this was neither the time nor the place to dredge up the past. "I want the best for him, Ojiogu. You know that." "I do," she replied, her voice softening a bit. "That's why I'm letting him go with you. But he will still spend time and part of his holiday with me. I won't lose my son completely." They agreed, and as much as it broke her heart, Ojiogu let Femi go. She sat him down and explained the situation to him as best as she could, emphasizing that this was about giving him the best opportunities in life. "We are going to live with your father, Femi," she said, her voice trembling slightly as she brushed a stray curl from his forehead. "It doesn't mean I love you any less. It just means that I want you to have the best education, the best life possible. Do you understand?" Femi, now 13 years old and on the cusp of adolescence, nodded solemnly. "I understand, Mama. I'll make you proud, I promise." As Femi followed Adeyemi to Lagos, a mix of excitement and trepidation filled him. He was about to start a new life, one that was so different from everything he had ever known. When they arrived at his father's house, Femi was met with a cold reception. His stepmother, Fumilayo, was there to greet them, her expression as frosty as ever. "So this is the boy," she said, her eyes sweeping over him with thinly veiled disdain. "I suppose you'll be staying here now." Femi nodded, unsure of what to say. Adeyemi just placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to offer him some assurance. "Femi, this is your home now. If you need anything, just let me know." But the warmth in his father's voice did little to soothe the chill in the air. Fumilayo never outrightly mistreated Femi, but every word she said and action towards him dripped with malice, especially when Adeyemi wasn't around. She excluded him from outings with her daughters, leaving him behind while the rest of the family went out to enjoy themselves. Femi felt like an outsider in his father's house, a constant reminder of a past his stepmother wished to forget. One day, Fumilayo cornered her husband in his study. "Adeyemi," she said, her voice firm and unyielding, "I don't want that boy in this house anymore." He's a constant reminder of your affair with that woman. I won't have him here. Adeyemi, tired of the tension in his home and the coldness that has seeped into every corner of his life, finally relented. Fine, he said, his voice flat with resignation. I'll send him abroad to study. It's what's best for him anyway. Ojiogu agreed to the arrangements, knowing that this was the best way to ensure Femi received the education he deserved, far away from the toxic environment in his father's house. But Adeyemi's life continued to spiral. Unable to stomach the emptiness of his marriage any longer, he approached Fumilayo one evening, his voice heavy with the burden of the years they had spent together. Fumilayo, we need to talk, he said, his tone serious as they sat down in the living room. I want a divorce. Fumilayo's face remained expressionless, as if she had been expecting this. Be serious, Adeyemi, she said, her voice calm, but with a steely edge. For years, I've done my duty to this family, to your mother, and to you. I know you don't love me. I've known for years that you call out her name in your sleep, that you think of her even when we are together. But I will be damned if I give you the divorce you want and let you disgrace me. Adeyemi felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. Fumilayo, I'm miserable. We are both miserable. This isn't a marriage. It's a prison. She looked at him squarely in the eyes, her resolve unshaken. Then separate from me. If that's what you want, move out. Live your life however you wish. But I will not give you a divorce. I won't let you tarnish my name or this family's name. And so Adeyemi moved out of the house, leaving Fumilayo and his stepmother behind to live together in the cold, loveless environment they had created. He rented an apartment on the other side of Lagos, seeking solace in the distance he had created from his past life. It was during one of his routine trips around Lagos that he bumped into Ojiogu. She was in town for a medical conference, and they hadn't seen each other in years. The years had softened her, and the anger that had once consumed her was now tempered by time and experience. Ojiogu, Adeyemi said, his voice filled with a mixture of surprise and longing, as he saw her walking out of the conference center. It's been a long time. Ojiogu turned to face him, her expression unreadable. Adeyemi, yeah, it has been a long time, she replied, her voice measured. They stood there in awkward silence for a moment, maybe seconds, before Adeyemi finally found the courage to speak. I never got the chance to explain, to apologize for what happened. Ojiogu's gaze softened slightly as she sighed. There's nothing to explain, Adeyemi. Life happened. We were young, naive, and even foolish. No, please, let me explain, Adeyemi insisted, his voice thick with emotion. I tried to reach out to you, but my letters were intercepted. My parents, they didn't want me to find you. They made sure I couldn't find you. Ojiogu's eyes widened in surprise, the pieces of the past suddenly falling into place. They intercepted your letters? She echoed, a hint of disbelief in her voice. Yes, Adeyemi confirmed, his voice full of regrets. I wanted to be with you, Ojiogu. I still do. But it's too late, isn't it? Ojiogu studied him for a moment. Her heart torn between the love she had once felt and the reality of the presence. Yes, Adeyemi, it's too late. You're married, and I have moved on. I've built a life for myself, for our son, and now there's no going back. Adeyemi's heart ached at her words, but he knew that she was right. The past could not be undone, and the future they had once dreamed was now out of reach. "I'm sorry, Ojiogu," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm sorry for everything." "I forgive you," she said, "but forgiveness doesn't mean we can go back. We've both changed, Adeyemi. We are not the same people we used to be." Adeyemi nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "I understand. I just needed you to know that I never stopped loving you." Ojiogu gave him a sad smile, her heart heavy with the weight of what could have been. "And I never stopped loving you, Adeyemi. But love isn't always enough. Sometimes we have to let go." With those words, they parted ways, each carrying the memories of a love that had once burned brightly, but was now a flickering flame in the shadows of their pasts. Adeyemi returned to his lonely apartment, the pain of his unfulfilled love still fresh in his heart, while Ojiogu went back to her life, knowing that the chapter with Adeyemi was finally closed. After that emotional meeting, both of them went their separate ways, but neither could shake the feeling that their story was yet over. Despite Ojiogu's insistence that they should move on, a small part of her heart longed for what they had lost. Similarly, Adeyemi couldn't help but feel that this was an encounter and it was a sign, a final opportunity to make things right. A few months later, Ojiogu received an invitation to a medical conference in Abuja. It was an important event, gathering top doctors and medical professionals from across the country. She accepted the invitation, thinking it would be a good distraction from the lingering thoughts of Adeyemi. Little did she know that Adeyemi had been invited for the same event, not as a medical professional, but as a guest speaker on the future of pharmaceutical industry, a field that his father's company had recently expanded into. When Adeyemi arrived at the conference, the last thing he expected to see was Ojiogu again. But there she was, standing across the room, deep in conversation with some colleagues. His heart raced as he watched her, unsure of what to do. He had promised himself that he would respect her wishes, but the sight of her brought all those feelings rushing back. Summoning his courage, Adeyemi walked to her. "Ojiogu," he said softly, almost afraid to break the spell of seeing her again. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise. "Adeyemi, what are you doing here?" "I'm one of the guest speakers," he said. "I didn't know you'd be here." She smiled faintly. "Neither did I. Life has a strange way of bringing people together, doesn't it?" She laughed softly. They spent the rest of the evening catching up, talking about their lives, their work, and Femi. It was like old times, the connection between them as strong as ever. As the night wore on, Adeyemi found himself unable to hold back any longer. "Ojiogu," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I've missed you every day since we last met. I know you said we should move on, but I can't. I still love you." Ojiogu looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and pain in them. She wanted to deny it, to walk away again, but she couldn't. "I love you too, Adeyemi," she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "I tried to move on, but I can't. But you're still married, and I can't be the reason you break your vows." Adeyemi shook his head. "I've already started the divorce process, Ojiogu. Fumilayo agreed to a separation. But I need to be free, to be with you. I can't let you go again. What about your daughters? Ojiogu asked. What about Fumilayo? They'll be taken care of, he assured her. But I need you to do this for us. I need us together, for our son. We've lost too much time together already. The intensity in his words, the love she felt for him, and the realization that they had been denied the chance at happiness for so long finally broke down the walls Ojiogu had built around her heart. All right, Adeyemi, she whispered, her voice filled with the mixture of hope and fear. Let's try again. The months that followed were filled with challenges, but also with a sense of hope that they had been missing from both their lives for years. Adeyemi finalized his divorce from Fumilayo, who, though bitter, eventually accepted the situation. She moved on with her life, finding solace in her daughters and her newfound freedom. As for Ojiogu and Adeyemi, they took things slowly, rebuilding the trust and love that had once come so easily to them. Femi, now older and more mature, was thrilled to see his parents together again, though he had always sensed the connection between them. When Adeyemi finally proposed to Ojiogu, it was a quiet, intimate moment, far removed from the whirlwind romance of their youth. This time, there were no rushed decisions, no external pressures, just the two of them, older, wiser, and ready to spend the rest of their lives together. They married in a small, beautiful ceremony, surrounded by close family and friends. For the first time in years, both of them felt a deep sense of peace and contentment. Life had thrown many obstacles in their path, but they had finally found their way together, to each other. As they stood together, hand in hand, watching the sun set over the horizon, they knew that their love would withstand the test of time, as it had before. And while the road had been long and difficult, it had led them to where they were, together forever.